My walk with Christ began when I was a teenager. I wanted a job and money so bad that I felt like I needed to go to work on Sunday mornings as opposed to going to church. My family always attended church, but I wouldn't really consider myself a Christian person. I didn't know what it meant to be saved, and I really didn't understand what it meant to go to heaven. So I decided to go to work. I needed a car, you see. When I turned 16, I was able to get my driver's license, and that was more important to me. Taking the car out, having a girlfriend, being able to go to the movies, that stuff was all more important to me than going to church. I didn't think it was all that important. So I decided to go to work, and as a 15-year-old, I stopped going to church. I made a decision. And I didn't know it at the time, but that decision would hurt me for a long time. The more I went to work on Sundays, the farther I got from God. And I fell out of touch with Jesus and the church. And I spent 5 or 6 years as a lost person. But I continued to play golf. I improved. I became very competitive. And I won lots of tournaments. And I was offered a college scholarship at Georgia Tech, which was something I was very proud of. I decided to go to school there. And as an 18-year-old, I became one of the better college players in the nation. And my life and my dream was always to play professional golf on the PGA Tour. So I was realizing my dream. I was getting better, I was improving, and I thought I was in control. I really had a firm grasp on my life. Although I didn't understand that it's more important for you to give up control of your life and let the Lord lead you. As a 19-year-old, I continued to make progress. In my second year in the university, I was an All-American. I was named to some honorable teams for my competitions in golf, and my accomplishments were growing. But my relationship with Jesus was still nowhere. It was still at the very beginning. One day, I was around the table at lunch with my teammates, and there was a guy that used to come around. He used to visit us named Mark Perry. He was from a group called College Golf Fellowship, which did some ministry around the nation with different college programs to basically help people understand a relationship about God. But to me, he was more just a friend, somebody to talk to, somebody to discuss sports with. And so on this day, we were around the lunch table. We were talking about sports. We were talking about baseball. We were having conversations about statistics, about our grades, about golf, all kinds of things. We weren't talking about the Lord. But in the middle of the conversation, this Mark Perry turned to me and said, "Hey, Stewart, let me ask you something. If you died right now, are you going to heaven?" And, I was taken by surprise. And I looked at Mark and I said, well, not so sure of myself. I said, yeah, I'm going to heaven. Because what I did was I looked in my pockets and I realized that I had a list in my pocket. And the list said, are you a nice person? Yes. Do you care for others? Yes. Are you kind and gentle? And all the answers were yes. In other words, I had done many good deeds in my life. So I told him yes. I thought, sure, I'm going to heaven because of my good deeds, right? Well, not too long after that, the question lingered in my mind, and I really didn't feel comfortable with the answer that I gave Mark Perry. He asked me if I was going to heaven if I died. I said yes, but I wasn't sure of myself. So I started to dig. I started to find out information. It took a few years of digging, but soon I became very, very clear in understanding that the answer was really no, that I wasn't going to heaven just because of my good deeds. They weren't getting me into heaven. No list will get you into heaven. Only one question that needs the answer yes will get you into heaven. So a few years later, after I'd been married and my son was born, one of my sons, I was in church in a little town in Alabama, really country, out in the middle of nowhere. And I was in my wife's parents' church. And it was a little church house that only seated about 50 or 60 people. And the preacher was delivering his sermon. And he was standing up on the stage about 3 steps higher than me. And I was in the middle. And I felt like he was looking down right at my nose. I felt like his nose was about this far from mine. And he was talking straight to me, delivering his message straight to me. He was basically asking me the same question. If I die today, am I going to heaven? And I couldn't stop thinking about the question that my friend Mark had asked me earlier, years earlier even. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And on that very day, I decided that the only question I needed to mark the answer yes to was, does Jesus Christ live in your heart? Is he your Savior? Did Jesus die on the cross, spend 3 days, and then ascend into heaven to be with the Father? That was the answer that I needed yes beside. That was the question that I needed yes beside. And it was that time that I realized I could go back to Mark and actually say, Mark, yes, I am going to go to heaven if I die right now. I am a Christian, but only because of those reasons. No deeds, no works, no list of questions marked yes would ever get me there. And the same goes for you.